Is it possible to write a good Mary Sue? Like hitting all the kind of notorious characteristics of what this archetype is, but coming out with a great character and a great story. That is what I want to talk about today with Reacher in this video, which is brought to you by Squarespace. So what is this term? If you're unfamiliar, a Mary Sue, or a Gary Stu if it's male, is an infamous type of poorly written character, in quotes. Specifically, it's a character who has no weaknesses or flaws. These characters are basically perfect. They are good at everything, like not everything, but good at lots and lots of totally different things, like things that span across categories that have no natural overlap whatsoever. They are good at everything they could possibly need to be good at for the story, and these characters often feel like self-insert characters. Feels like living out the fantasy of the author.
West Point graduate, Silver Star. Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Soldier's Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Bronze Star, a second Silver Star, and a Purple Heart.
Reacher is a war hero, but like not just a war hero, he is the biggest war hero that ever war heroed. He is strong, but not just that, he is the strongest strongman who ever stronged, except for that one guy in the 3rd season. But that guy didn't matter, because why?
You might be bigger and stronger, but I'm smarter.
Reacher is also crazy smart, maybe not book smart, although he does kind of know every bookish fact and data point relevant to everything he does. But anyway, who cares about that? Seriously, who needs book smarts when you're just actual Sherlock Holmes?
You went to Harvard, you recently divorced, and you quit smoking in the last 6 months.
How'd you come up with that?
My friend back there, Baker, he called you a beantown bitch, and from all appearances, you're well educated, but you took a job in the middle of nowhere with people that look nothing like you. You're stubborn, you have a chip on your shoulder, you don't care if your coworkers like you. A guy like that doesn't go to BU, he goes to Harvard. To show those blue-blood assholes what he's capable of, am I right? You're also about 40, which means you did your 20 at Boston PD to get your pension so you can afford a proper Southern soup, but you still look like Black Sherlock Holmes. Means no woman in your life making sure you dress right. Death or divorce. Your age divorce is a higher probability, but you still wear the ring. By the way, I already play with it, obsess over it. Like I said, you're stubborn. As with smoking, when I broke down the 3 murders back there, you started...
Well, Sherlock Holmes if he were a martial arts master and also a weapons expert and also ridiculously good-looking, who gets all the hot female police/government workers and has a perfect body, but he doesn't even work out.
How much you bench?
Don't know.
Why not?
Because it's stupid.
And Reacher's also this loner, drifter type who has no connections tying him down, but then he also has connections, like really, really strong ones, lifelong brothers and sisters in the Special Investigators Unit. But no, he's past that life now, and he'll travel halfway across the country to eat a lobster he heard about. He is that free from all responsibilities, but except he lives a life of purpose, protecting the weak, because everywhere he goes, he runs into all these missions that give his life deep meaning, but then he's still a free drifter who lives a life of freedom with no connections, except for the ones that he makes, but they're all okay with him not having connections, but they all really care about the connections. Oh, and he's also like a big dog lover, and he's a big dog defender. He stands up for the dogs. Okay, so is Reacher a Gary Stu? I don't think it's controversial to say absolutely yes, he is. Even if you like the character, even if you like the story, I like the story, I like the character. It's undeniable, just what he is. And especially with the kind of grumpy way I just described it, it is not hard to see why people call these characters poor writing. Number one, where is the drama? Where's the stakes? Where's really anything to keep me interested when the character is perfect, when they win every fight, when they only succeed, they breeze through every challenge? Where's the excitement in that? It's predictable, it's boring when we already know the outcome. Number two, there's no character development with these characters. They are already perfect, there's no internal struggle, there's no change, it's just the character being the same throughout the whole story until it just sort of ends. Where's the meaning in a story like that? Is it strong guy beats less strong guys? Is experiencing that enriching to my life somehow? And number three, it's just unrealistic. There are no people this perfect. And on a story level, it just breaks immersion when a character has everything they need to magically solve the plot. Especially with the self-insert thing, it just feels very transparently like a story. And we don't like being reminded of that during the story experience. And the unrealism ties back to the other reasons as well. If there's no struggle, what am I connecting to? The human experience is not being perfect and solving every problem, it's struggling against the world. It's the inner fight, not just the outer fight, and here we have neither. So then what exactly are we left with? So I think looking at all these arguments, these are very compelling reasons to not like something. They are very hard to argue with, so how am I arguing with it? What basis is there to say that this character is not just okay, but is actually good writing, and that more writers should write characters like this? And my argument is 200 million Jack Reacher books sold. Not really, that's not my argument, but that's a reason why an argument needs to be articulated. I'm not saying that popular equals objectively good writing, I'm not really a prescriptivist with storytelling, but what I am saying is that if millions of people love this character and love these stories, I don't really see the relevance of objective good or objective bad. If you want to write stories that mean something to people, then you can learn from this, and you should learn from this. Apparently, whatever your writing teacher tells you, Gary Stews do not stand in the way of meaningful stories, and honestly, on the contrary, if you talk to Reacher fans, it's kind of the opposite. All these strengths and the lack of flaws, that is what makes the character popular. That is why, or at least what allows him to be so beloved, and it's hard to imagine even a single fan of the series saying like, oh yeah, this would have been better if there was more character development. That is not an issue for the fans of this character, that's something that they like about him. So, you want to write a good Mary Sue or Gary Stu, how do you do it? I think our journey to the answer can start with this scene that just has one of the most Reacher-y Reacher lines ever.
What flavor is this?
Today's special, lavender infusion.
Any flavor other than chocolate or vanilla is nonsense.
This is how you do it. Rule number 1, make the character stand for an ideal alone against the entire world. That quote is about ice cream, but let's be real, it's not actually about ice cream. Reacher isn't just a loner in lifestyle. He does not fit into the world, and it's on so many levels. I think this is one of the main reasons why the show has a reputation of that one show your dad is always talking about. Reacher embodies this classic, old-fashioned, salt-of-the-earth idealism. He lives his life by principles, honesty, loyalty, freedom, respect, justice. Do your duty, protect the innocent, doesn't matter who he has to punch, doesn't matter how much he has to get punched, he is uncompromising about these values, and it's not complicated. The ice cream line is not about ice cream, its reality is simple. People go ahead and pile layers of nonsense on top of it that shouldn't matter. Vanilla chocolate, who needs anything else? The shirt on your back, a good pair of jeans, a toothbrush, who needs anything else? Good guys and bad guys, who needs anything else? Reacher is so not caught up in all the bullshit of our decadent modern society. He doesn't care about wealth or success or comfort or career ambition or technology or politics. He doesn't care about authority or bureaucracy or institutions. That is not how most people see things nowadays, and the series knows that. Reacher stands out. He clashes with everyone around him. He is put into situations like the ice cream shop. It didn't have to be a hipster foodie lavender flavor place, but it was. They put him there specifically so Reacher could emphasize, yeah, I hate this, and it hates me, and that's how things are. It's me versus the world. So what does this accomplish in countering our Mary Sue problems? The answer is simple. This is what creates stakes that are otherwise missing with Mary Sue's. If the story is just about winning the plot, then yeah, of course an overpowered character's path to victory is going to be boring and predictable. And if it's just the good side versus the bad side, then yeah, we also know how that goes. Well, when it's the character who stands alone for an ideal against the world or against massive odds, doesn't have to be the whole world, then it kind of doesn't matter if the character is overpowered because it still feels like a losing battle, both from a numbers standpoint, it is the world after all, and we are just one person no matter how big we are, but then also in the idealistic landscape. The ideology Reacher stands for is an underdog position. People are not like that anymore. You think about the lone dad who's sitting with his beer in hand, cigar between his teeth, and just loving the show, and he also has always felt like there are too many ice cream flavors, and he also bemoans the fact that no one cares about honor or toughness or respect. People are too complicated nowadays, society is bullshit nowadays. He feels like he has no champion in his world. Someone who stands up for simple values in that common sense way, everyone knows it, in that old-fashioned way that this degenerate world has just abandoned. That dad feels like he's caught in a losing battle. And having a ridiculously overpowered character isn't tilting the scales in an unfair way, and most it's evening the scales. It's finally giving our side a chance. That's what it means for him to have a story like Reacher. And that is really all the stakes you need, at least for a large portion of the story's intended audience. Okay, I just wanted to jump in here during the editing process and make sure something is emphasized. It's not just standing alone against the world for anything, it's standing alone against the world for something good. Reacher defends the innocent from bullies. That is almost always satisfying to see because it's something that's so good. It's not something that easily gets old, and it's also not automatically engaging, but that's where the stakes come in, that's where the unbalanced fight comes in. And fighting bullies also isn't the only type of thing like this.
Bond. James Bond.
James Bond is another Gary Stu who also just fights the bad guys, but with him it's that he's classy. And again, that's something which is always satisfying to see. It doesn't have to be like morally virtuous, just something we relate to as good. And it works the same. You combine that with a feel of uneven odds, one secret agent against the whole bad guy syndicate or whatever, and I am engaged.
Is it classy enough?
And because of this phenomenon, we have rule number 2. The story is not about developing character, it's about testing character. This is a principle that applies to way more than just Scary Stews. It's in a lot of stories that don't have character development, and like good stories that are not supposed to have character development. Think about like shonen anime and shonen heroes. The idea is that there are journeys where what we find meaningful and dramatic is how the character changes, and then there are journeys where what we find meaningful and dramatic is how the character refuses to change. And if it's sad, it's a tragedy, and if it's badass, then it's a story like Reacher, where the character faces challenge after challenge that is demanding without mercy that the character just crumple and roll over and give up like anyone else would. But our hero is not anyone else, and they win by staying true to who they are no matter what. They progress by stubbornly defying the call to change, by demonstrating an arc of their fortitude or willpower or strength of character, going from 0 to 100 to protect their precious inner selves from a world that just refuses to conform to what it should be. And by protecting those values, it's the world that slowly starts to change around them. The world is forced to start conforming to the true ideals of common sense, old school justice if you're a Reacher, or friendship and freedom if you're a shonen anime, or capitalism and brutalist architecture if you're Ayn Rand, or whatever it is. Combine this with rule number 1, there's like this extra desperation that he wins. For people who care deeply about their ideals, it is not common to see such a pure embodiment of those ideals. And when we do see it, it feels like this rare and precious thing. And we don't like that it's rare. We want to protect it, we want to see more of it. We know the world doesn't have that much more of it. We know that without Reacher, we just got a bunch of incompetent or corrupt or lazy or stuck-up smart-talking idiots who can't handle all the villains out there. And yeah, there's some good folks out there to be sure, but they are a lone little sprout in a barren desert. They're not a tree of life like Reacher or like Luffy. Okay, rule number 3, don't focus on if, focus on how. I want to compare Reacher to another character who is not a Mary Sue, but who operates on a lot of the same principles. And that character is Mark Watney from The Martian. Like our Marys and Garys, Mark Watney's story is not a story about the character's journey totally transforming him. It is about being tested. It's about persevering, being enough when all the cards are stacked against you. Mark is a perfect example of a character who basically has all the strengths he needs from the beginning, and as far as flaws, I wouldn't say he has any real flaws. I think he has pretend flaws, like, I don't know, being a risk taker, but that's really a strength. We'll talk more about that phenomenon later. But he has all the traits he needs. He has all the expertise and training he needs in every relevant area for the plot. And we kind of know that he's going to succeed in his story. I mean, they wouldn't make a story about a person who just gets stranded on Mars and then dies. That would be a very interesting narrative choice. So because of that, where do the stakes come from? Why do we engage? So A, it's because of what we just talked about. Mark's plot is an underdog, idealistic story. He has to survive alone on Mars. The odds are stacked against him. And in an idealistic sense, him succeeding is not just him succeeding, it is humanity. That is the way the story is framed. But B, there's another factor here, it's pretty straightforward, which is we know that he's going to succeed, but we don't know how he's going to succeed. And not knowing the how is important. When we don't know the how, we feel that. And we feel that in a way that's not just like, oh, ho-hum, I guess I'll just wait and see. No, it's that without the how, the whole story feels impossible. And that makes a significant part of our brains feel like, I kind of don't think he's going to succeed because how? In other words, what we have is conflict in the form of a paradox. We know from our knowledge of stories and how they work that we will almost definitely win in the end, but we also know from our view of just what's going on that this is a losing situation. And we're watching to resolve that frustrating conflict. And that makes all of it hinge on the question of the how. But then also there's something else going on here that's even more important. Because sure, we have those dire stakes, but the experience of The Martian is not a nail-biting thriller where we're constantly afraid of failure. No, The Martian is a ton of fun. Why? Because that's the other functionality that comes from a focus on the how. Watching smart people figure out the how, watching really capable, resourceful people fire on all cylinders and solve really difficult problems, that is just a thrilling thing to watch, and that is the other appeal of Reacher. I've heard this is even more true in the books, it's way more detailed. Reacher's not just smart in a way that's like magic, he is capable, he is resourceful, he is creative, and it's really fun and engaging and cathartic getting to follow his ingenious thought process and see all these little ways he solves every challenge. And the reason why this is so rewarding and fun is A, solving problems is a great vehicle to express character. With Mark Watney, we really see his dorky but relentlessly positive and defiant attitude, we see his toughness, we see his discipline, his humor, and with Reacher we see his sense of justice over and over again obviously, but like in very specific ways, his utter disregard when it comes to lying to bad guys and treating them as unfairly as they treated others, we see his sense of respect, we see his sense of honor, we also see stuff like his preparedness, his diligence, we see how his loner lifestyle is so conducive to devoting all of himself to justice in a way that other people weighed down by attachments just can't do. And then B, I think this is the more interesting one, it's dopamine. Straight up. It's just constant dopamine hits watching competent experts be awesome at what they do. But the way Reacher stories make this interesting, in a way that I don't think I've seen other stories do as consistently at least, it has to do with the structure. What I want to call this phenomenon is flow state fiction. Flow state is the concept that this guy with a long name came up with for explaining what a lot of people call being in the zone. It's a type of focus. But the scenario where it happens is a very specific experience. Optimal challenge is one of the ways of describing it, which is where you are being challenged, but it's not a level of challenge where you actually feel a possibility of real failure. It's like a challenge that's just a smidge beyond what your baseline can handle. You're not good enough for it to be easy. It's demanding enough that you have to focus, you have to work for it, but you know that if you do give it your best, you are going to succeed. Another part of the experience is an effortless sense of control. Immediate feedback is also part of it. So going back to the experience of Reacher, he always has this big plot that he's confronting, but the form that takes is a series of constant challenges. And despite the fact that we know he's going to win, the challenges are real. He has to work, he has to put in effort. It's never easy for him, he has to give it his best, and there's a thrilling sense of control and how he goes about utilizing all his skills. There's immediate feedback. We are never left in suspense for long about, like, are his efforts working, or is the whole season for nothing? That's never how it's presented. No, it's that we get the challenge, followed by clear wins, and then maybe some setbacks, and then maybe a win, and we move forward again, and then a barrier, and then we overcome it. There's no, like, big midpoint reversal where we're literally back at zero. There's no drawn out, like, mission to destroy the ring where we just don't know if there will ever be any hope of being successful. Will our ideals win out against evil, or will the Dark Lord prevail? No, we know the end, and we know that we're always moving forward. We just get lots of crazy stuff in our way. And then, since we do know the end, it's actually kind of nice. We can just sit back and get engrossed and watch how all the how questions play out. And this is a large part of what addresses the realism issue, because once you're focusing on the how, what that really means, what the premise behind that is rule number 4, the story is about plausibility, not realism. This is a hugely important distinction that I think Reacher really capitalizes on, because while he does score low in the strict realism category because he is perfect, because of the no flaws, only strengths, no development, no change stuff, Reacher knocks it out of the park for audiences who are in it for plausibility. Side story, I was at a convention called JordanCon a number of years ago, and I asked the author Patrick Rothfuss what his response was to people who belittle the fantasy and sci-fi genres for being escapist, for not being about reality, about real life, and allowing people to indulge in avoiding real life and escaping to fairyland spaceship town instead of confronting real life here now. And I'm paraphrasing, but his answer was, I believe that even more interesting than the question of what is the question of what if. And while Reacher is not sci-fi fantasy, his stories serve a similar demographic, people who are fascinated by what if. What if there was a person who did have the strong sense of justice, and who was this big and this strong, and that person did join the military, and he did get trained as a Sherlock Holmes type investigator, and as a stone-cold killer martial arts and weapons expert, and he worked with other stone-cold killer investigators who became his loyal, lifelong friends, but also he became this loner afterwards, but was also still hot enough to get all the police women? What if there was a guy like this, and you threw him into situations alone, and got to watch him just go to town? The plausibility, the question of what if there's a guy like this, that is what makes these stories so exciting to witness. Let's take a pretty standard story situation, and see what a really, really capable person could plausibly do. It's like the diametric opposite of when a character in some dumb story gets put in a dumb situation with a dumb easy solution, and then they don't do it. And we're left so frustrated going like, don't go in there, look behind you, you idiot, just fly the eagles to Mordor, you dumb wizard. With Reacher, he often does the thing that other story characters just fumble for stupid story reasons. Reacher is full of situations where in a normal action movie, the hero just wouldn't shoot for some reason. Maybe the bad guy has a hostage, or maybe he's just monologuing, and instead of just standing there, instead of freaking out and being afraid, Reacher just shoots them. Or maybe they get sucked into the clever games of the clever villain, or maybe I should trust them just this one time, or maybe I should take the high road and keep my promise that I won't harm them if they tell me where the whatever is. And no, Reacher just shoots them. They are bad guys, they don't deserve honesty, that's what they take advantage of to win, so let's just be smart about it, do what we need to do. And there's a lot of real tension in these moments between what the hero is like supposed to do and what's plausible. Well, we all know they could do, but never do for some reason. In Reacher's stories, you get to see a character actually do the smartest thing every time, and that is awesome, and it heightens the meaning of the whole story, especially since being smart doesn't magically eliminate all the obstacles. He still has challenges, and he rises to meet each one, and there's still all the tension of, will the plan work? Will Reacher be able to do better than I could in this situation, better than the average person? And then just a separate point still on the topic of plausibility, another thing I'll mention that Reacher fans will consistently point out is that yes, while he does have all the strengths, he is not the strongest. Example 1, this guy. And he's also not the smartest. Finley went to Harvard, and he doesn't have magical levels of any of his skills, or he doesn't have magical skills that he shouldn't have. He doesn't speak Mongolian randomly. He speaks French and Arabic because his mother was French and because he served in Iraq. That makes sense, that is plausible. And hey, he's not even good at everything. He's bad at driving, apparently in the books. So see, he's not perfect, it's plausible. He's bad at technology too. He probably couldn't even design his own website, except he totally could if you use code SCHNEE to get 10% off with Squarespace. Plausible. Add SCHNEE, go ahead. So I know there are a lot of you out there who are aspiring content creators or who have started making content yourselves. So let's say I wanted to make a website with resources of how to navigate some of the challenges of being a content creator. Squarespace is the perfect platform to make such a site. If there's like, I don't know, a specific company that's extremely trigger happy with their copyright enforcement, footage unrelated, and I wanted to upload a video of like a studio tour, footage unrelated, that video essayists can download as B-roll so they won't get claimed under Content ID. Squarespace makes it super easy to host video content. I can put it behind a paywall if I want. I can request donations, one time or recurring. I can do blog posts about like how the accounting works when it comes to buying overpriced merch and then writing it off as a business expense because you use it for a video. And if you need a domain, Squarespace has you covered there too. Search up any domain you like, say Please release the copyright claim on mymadnessvideo.com. Oh, sweet, look, it's available. So easy. So anyway, make a website for your business with Squarespace. It is so easy, and the platform offers the ability to do whatever you need, all the functions, tons of design choices. Go to squarespace.com/schnee for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use offer code schnee to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Back to the video. So after this discussion of focusing on the how, focusing on the plausible, what that sets the stage for is rule number 5, give your Marys and Garys lots and lots of agency. Mary Sues thrive on agency, and I mean here real moments where they have a blank slate to decide from square zero what they're going to do. These are not decisions that are handed to them at all. Bad Marys and Garys will breeze through their stories with the conflict kind of just rolling off their backs. The story is easy for them. Reacher's stories are not easy at all. And it's not because of the story, it's because of Reacher. He is a conflict magnet, and that is because of his own agency. The story is constantly leaving Reacher open to doing things like everyone else, avoiding confrontation, looking the other way, accepting pragmatic levels of justice, or achieving justice in the normal ways, and doing things like everyone else, basically. And Reacher just never does. He always takes the hard road. He always has to get that little extra level of justice that he considers acceptable, even when it doesn't really matter. He never calls the police or any other agencies who could actually seriously help him. He only really calls Neely, and he only relies on people with the highest moral fiber. And this is not an asset for him. It's arguably a good quality, but it causes problems and makes him act in kind of dumb ways sometimes, and he has to deal with the consequences. The amount of times that Reacher kills someone that he should have just kept alive to interrogate, I mean, stuff like this is why we're starting to get into flaw territory, and suddenly the character is looking less and less perfect. And on that note, rule number 6, make their perfections into flaws and their flaws into perfections. My friend Chamorka described Reacher as having an overripe sense of justice, which I thought was the perfect description. He is frankly too brutal a lot of the time. He is cruel, he is merciless, and that's all when it comes to bad guys. So it's justice, and yeah, just too far, it's not okay. So it's a flaw, but it's really just from being so moral, right? That's what it is. And you look at his independence, he's not just independent, he isn't just not part of this corrupt modern society. He is so much of a loner that he's actually socially pretty oblivious. He's kind of dumb about normal things that don't confuse normal people who are part of society. And again, that is a flaw, but society is so impure and corrupt that being disconnected from that is just a sign of how good and loner he is. So again, it's kind of a result of him being so perfect. But I think the other way is even more interesting. Flaws that turn into perfections. In other words, these are kind of like gotcha situations. Oh, you thought he was flawed, you thought he caught me, but nope, he's still perfect. For example, Reacher is not in touch with his emotions, and you might think the show would never dare to admit that that's a flaw, but there's this one really touching scene in season 1 where we actually see him having this really vulnerable moment.
He was the only man I ever felt small next to. I'm glad he found you, Molly Beth. You didn't take to people easily, so you must be special.
So he has this whole big emotional conversation with her, and we see it's actually very difficult for him. He's vulnerable, he's raw, he's honest, and it's kind of awkward, it doesn't come naturally to him, but he still pulls through and he does it, and then in the end...
Losing family's a special kind of pain. You're hurting. And you still tried to comfort Molly Beth.
Reacher is a big emotional hero. He saved the day with his emotions. Look how he just swooped in and eased this poor woman's pain with his big, strong, tough, emotional vulnerability. Gosh, he's just so good at that too. He really is just a hero in every way, isn't he? Okay, but then it also doesn't have to be turning flaws into perfections. It can just be dancing back and forth between how you frame it. Season 2 really goes out of its way to show his loner lifestyle in a detrimental light. He is totally out of the loop with the people he cares about, and that's painful for him.
Franz's wedding, Lowry's funeral. No one told me.
No phone, no address.
And his thinking about his drifter lifestyle is portrayed as kind of ridiculous and emotional.
I'm already carrying boots. If I had any more clothes, pretty soon I need a suitcase. I got a suitcase, I need a house to keep it in, then I need a car for the driveway. Before you know it, I'm filling out all kinds of forms.
And then they don't dispel that at all. They leave it, and they kind of leave us to think about it. But then when being a loner comes up again in season 3...
It's all it's cracked up to be.
We're back to romanticizing it, because why not? It's fun. So if you want to give these characters dimension through flaws, there are a lot of these have your cake and eat it too ways of doing it, and you should indulge in them. They are cheat codes that can be somewhat transparent, but use them. This type of audience doesn't mind it at all. We welcome it, we love it. And on that note, last rule, number 7, do not apologize. You have a perfect character that your audience loves. Lean into that. Do not be shy about it, shout it to the world, have fun with it. Reacher is constantly just so brazenly like, yeah, that's right, no weaknesses there either. You're stronger than me? Well, I'm smarter than you. You went to Harvard? Well, I'm a better detective than you. My brother who I idolized, what was he like?
Even though you were his little brother, he was the one who looked up to you. He'd go on about how smart you are.
Remember, this audience wants to believe. They love this hero and they love the ideal that he represents, and they are on your side with figuring out how to get past the barriers and to immerse in the story. They want to not care about the paradoxes and the realism questions, so go for it. Make it plausible, but once you have the justifications there, just go 150% with it. Place your perfect character with their outstanding characteristics next to ordinary people, and show them reacting to it. In Reacher, they particularly like doing these moments that I've started calling, yeah, what moments. Reacher's presented with a situation, he's given space to exercise his agency, and there's a right way to act by normal people standards, and Reacher does something else. All the characters react in shock, we react in shock, Reacher doesn't react, and the story gives us a beat like it's saying, yeah, what? So go ahead, do that to your heart's content. One restriction that I'll say with this, do not make these characters egotistical assholes, do not make your Marys and Garys arrogant and braggy, even apologetically, self-deprecatingly braggy. You can and should totally let other characters do that, like praise them and point out all their good characteristics and brag for them, often out of the earshot of your Gary, and meanwhile your Gary is oblivious, he thinks it's normal, he's living up to his own high standards, and that's just what's honorable, that's the ideal he embodies. He doesn't think it's impressive, he doesn't care what other people think, you're telling me other people aren't like this? Other than that, just have fun. Self-insert the crap out of them, let your audience experience their fantasies of what they would do if they were perfect. I totally get why this type of character gets a bad rap. You take like the Star Wars sequels, I've gone on record before saying I think Rey Star Wars was a Mary Sue, and I really didn't like the sequels. I think where a lot of Mary Sues and Gary Sues go wrong, Rey included, is that they try to do normal stories with these characters. They don't realize that they need to change a lot in order for an overpowered, flawless character to work. They can't just do the normal hero's journey with normal challenges and normal pacing. That becomes super boring, and with normal supporting characters, who now all look worse than them, they can't be on the good side with a lot of other allies who share ideals with them, and are in a relatively balanced fight with the bad guys. These characters need all the cards stacked against them. They need the space and the opportunity to make creative hows, and for the story to focus on that and appreciate that. They need special care to make their perfection plausible. They need overripe perfect traits that do function as flaws and other stuff that functions as flaws. And I'm not saying that they need all this stuff, but they at least need some of it. Or else, yeah, it's gonna be unrealistic and unrelatable and unlikable and uninteresting. But anyway, yes, Mary Sues are against the code of good writing, but I say hang the code, hang the rules. They're more like guidelines anyway. If you're trying to get better at storytelling, at a certain point you really just gotta stop focusing on what people are calling good and bad, stop eating from that tree, and start focusing instead on just the stories that you want to tell, the stories that you want to experience. Stories that you find fun, or stories that you find important, and you think other people will find them important. Break any rules you need to. Make people feel something. Don't care about not writing stories some people will hate. Just write what people will love. Okay, we will stop here. Subscribe. Are you a Reacher fan? I'm curious what's engaging about him for you, why you like the series, why you like his stories, and also I'd love to hear if you're a fan of the book specifically, how you think the show compares to it. Like I said earlier, I really love the character, I think the show is a ton of fun, but honestly most of the time I was watching this, I was just like fascinated by how the whole thing works. I love seeing things that kind of shouldn't work according to the writing rules, quote unquote, but then they end up doing really, really well in the real world. And on that note, next week I'm going to be talking about a different kind of poorly written character, quote unquote, this time one-dimensional characters, and how they can be used effectively in a way that makes you really honestly not miss the other dimensions, and it is going to be a Star Wars character. I'm curious if there are any guesses. If you like the video, support the channel on Patreon. Shout out to new high tier patrons Adrian Wilkins and Daniel Hailstone, welcome back. And thank you so much to all my patrons. Lately I've really felt an extra level of appreciation from my audience and all the support I've gotten. This job is not easy, it's a privilege, and I'm able to have that privilege because of all of you. So I really have a lot of gratitude for you guys. Anyway, that's all I got for now. New video coming next Sunday. Hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for watching.